the big news in the NHL from Sunday, as first reported by our own Darren Dreger, the Flames traded defenseman Rasmus Andersson to the Golden Knights in exchange for Zach Whitecloud, University of North Dakota defenseman Abram Wiebe, a 2027 first-round pick, and a 2028 conditional second-rounder that becomes a first-rounder if the Las Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup this year.
Rasmus Andersson breaks silence on the Flames after this trade. Just hours after the deal was made public Sunday night, changed his career path. The message came quickly. 10 seasons were reduced to one statement, and that statement became the starting point of a much bigger story. On January 18, 2026, the Calgary Flames completed a major trade involving defenseman Rasmus Andersson. The Flames sent Andersson to the Vegas Golden Knights. In return, Calgary received defenseman Zach Whitecloud College prospect Abram Wiebe and a top 10 protected 2027 first-round draft pick along with a conditional 2028 second-round pick. The second-round pick will become a first-round pick if Vegas wins the 2026 Stanley Cup. As part of the deal, Calgary agreed to retain 50% of Andersson's remaining salary for the 2025-2026 season. Andersson's cap hit was $4.55 million. With salary retained, the Golden Knights took on half of that amount. This retention helped Vegas fit the contract under the salary cap while keeping roster flexibility. Rasmus Andersson was drafted by the Flames in the second round of the 2015 NHL draft. He spent his entire NHL career with Calgary until this trade. Over 10 seasons, Andersson played 584 regular season games for the Flames. He recorded 57 goals and 204 assists, totaling 261 points among Flames defensemen. Those totals ranked near the top in team history. During the 2025-2026 season before the trade, Andersson played 48 games for Calgary. He scored 10 goals and added 20 assists. At the time of the trade, he ranked third on the team in total points, also logged heavy minutes, often matching up against top opposing forwards. Within hours of the trade being announced, Andersson released a public message addressed to the Flames organization and its fans. The message was posted on social media and later confirmed by multiple media outlets. In his statement, Andersson wrote, "Calgary, thank you for everything you've done for me ever since being drafted in 2015. I've loved this organization." He continued, "I've truly loved every second of playing for this amazing team and city. To all the fans, thank you for always supporting me and keeping me honest at the same time." Andersson also included a message directed toward teammates, coaches, and staff. He wrote, "To my teammates, coaches, training staff, and everyone at the front office, thank you. Wishing the Flames nothing but the best in the future. I'll always be a fan." The statement was released the same day the trade became official. It marked the first public comment from Andersson following the deal. The timing and clarity of the message drew attention because it came quickly and addressed all parts of the organization. Flames general manager Craig Conroy explained the decision to trade Andersson during media availability. He stated that contract discussions played a role. Conroy said, "I think at the beginning at times, they were open to the idea of signing an extension with teams, but then I was informed this morning they weren't open to signing with other teams." Conroy added, "That definitely changes the game a little bit." Andersson is set to become an unrestricted free agent at the end of the 2025-2026 season. His pending contract status affected how teams viewed his trade value. According to reports, Calgary considered multiple offers before finalizing the deal with Vegas. The Golden Knights entered the trade leading the Pacific Division. The team has dealt with injuries on defense during the season. Veteran defenseman Alex Pietrangelo missed time, which increased the need for blue line depth. Andersson's addition addressed that need. Vegas acquired a defenseman with playoff experience. Andersson has played 27 Stanley Cup playoff games. In those games, he recorded 7 goals and 7 assists. His postseason experience was a factor in Vegas pursuing the trade. Zach Whitecloud, sent to Calgary in the deal, is 29 years old. He previously won a Stanley Cup with Vegas. Before the trade, Whitecloud had played 368 regular season NHL games. He recorded 23 goals and 55 assists in his career. He brings experience and defensive reliability to Calgary's lineup. The Flames also received Abram Wiebe, a college defense prospect. Wiebe plays at the University of North Dakota. During the current season, he recorded 3 goals and 11 assists in 24 games. The Flames view him as a long-term development piece. The 2027 first-round pick included in the trade is top 10 protected protect. If the pick falls within the top 10, the selection will roll over with conditions adjusted. The conditional 2028 pick provides added value if Vegas reaches the ultimate postseason goal. Vegas integrated Andersson into the lineup shortly after the trade. Coaching staff indicated he would be used in a top pair or second pair role, depending on matchups and health of other defensemen. The trade altered the balance within the Pacific Division. Vegas strengthened a position of need. Calgary added future assets and depth pieces. Andersson's message remained the defining response from the player involved. It was direct. It was factual. It acknowledged the full span of his time with the Flames. The transaction officially closed one of the longest player tenures in Calgary's current roster and opened a new chapter for both franchises as the season continued.
Yeah, well, it was a point of focus before the game. We know that that's a big, heavy team. They do a real good job of tipping pucks and getting it's a battle around the net. But I thought our guys competed extremely hard tonight.
Craig Berube did not celebrate the overtime win. He did not smile. He did not soften his word. Instead, his message cut straight through the Maple Leafs locker room after the final horn, and the team had just completed a comeback. But Berube's tone suggested something was still wrong, and what he said next shifted the focus away from the score and raised serious concern. The Toronto Maple Leafs defeated the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 in overtime after trailing 3-1 during regulation, and the comeback was completed when Max Domi scored the winning goal early in overtime, while Austin Matthews recorded the primary assist on the play, and the result ended the game, but it did not define the night.
Yeah, no, he stuck with it. Good character win. Obviously a great way to finish off the road trip. It was a tough trip, but I liked our road trip overall.
Craig Berube addressed the media shortly after the win, and his remarks were measured and direct as he referred to the performance as a character win, acknowledging the team's response after falling behind. And that phrase was not used to describe execution across the full game, but was instead used to describe effort during adversity. Berube confirmed that the team's push late in the third period reflected commitment, and he cited energy from multiple lines and credited the group for staying engaged. However, he did not describe the performance as complete, and he stated that the team still has areas that must improve even after securing the 2 points. The Maple Leafs allowed the opening goal and trailed for long stretches of the game, while Winnipeg generated sustained pressure at even strength, and Toronto relied on quick counterattacks rather than long offensive zone shifts, and the Jets extended their lead to 3-1 before Toronto responded with goals from Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Bobby McMahon to force overtime. Dennis Hildeby made 27 saves, and several came during extended defensive sequences, while the Leafs faced breakdowns in coverage and neutral zone gaps that led to controlled entries against, and those moments did not go unaddressed. In the post-game setting, Berube said he liked the team's character, but stressed the need to be smarter in certain situations, and the comment referred to decision-making with the puck and awareness late in periods, and it was not directed at one player but applied to the group. A late penalty taken during regulation extended Winnipeg pressure and shifted momentum, and Berube acknowledged frustration with how that sequence developed, while the Jets had already capitalized on earlier opportunities and special team influenced the flow of the game. Austin Matthews logged over 23 minutes of ice time, and he played in all key situations and factored directly into the overtime goal, while Berube acknowledged his impact but did not isolate individual performances, and the focus remained on structure and consistency. The warning carried weight because of its timing, and it came after a comeback, and it came after a win, and it came without raised emotion, and the message was not softened by the result, and it did not stop with praise. The night ended with points in the standings, but the evaluation extended beyond the scoreboard, and that distinction stayed firmly in place. The warning delivered after the Jets game did not stand alone, and it matched a pattern Craig Berube has maintained throughout recent games, and in earlier outings, he has pointed directly to mistakes that changed outcomes, and after a previous loss, he said, just days before the Winnipeg win, Toronto lost an overtime game against the Vegas Golden Knights, and in that game, the Maple Leafs allowed a tying goal late in regulation after failing to manage the puck in the final moments, and the game extended beyond regulation and ended in a loss. And Berube addressed that result by highlighting avoidable errors and breakdowns late in the game. Following the win, Berube confirmed that video review would continue immediately, and preparation did not pause because of the result, as practice schedules resumed and game footage from Winnipeg remained part of internal evaluation. Players echoed the tone set by the coach, and responses were brief and aligned with his language, as no one described the game as complete, and no one suggested satisfaction beyond the points earned, and the message stayed consistent across the room. The Jets game added 2 points to Toronto's total, but it also added another example to the ongoing assessment of the team's play, and Berube did not shift focus toward upcoming opponents in his remarks, and instead kept attention on execution. The warning was delivered without volume or dramatics, and it was issued after a win, not during a losing stretch, and that timing made it noticeable, and it reframed the result. The overtime goal ended the night, but Berube's message extended beyond it, and the distinction between effort and execution remained clear, and the expectation of a full performance did not change with the scoreboard.
I think that's got to be the main point of focus each and every night. Like, we don't have to be the best team in the world every single night, but we need everybody to compete. We need everybody to just play good. Everybody just has to go out there and do their job and play good. And just the consistency, that's been a big part of it.
Something changed inside the Maple Leafs room, and it didn't happen during the game. It happened after. One short statement from the captain. Calm words. Sharp meaning. Fans caught it instantly. Media replayed it again and again. The coach had just sent a message. Hours later, the captain answered, and what followed quietly shifted the conversation around this team. The moment came after practice, not during a game. Austin Matthews stood in front of reporters as the Toronto Maple Leafs tried to reset after another difficult stretch. The team had struggled to close games. Defensive lapses had cost points. Pressure was building. Earlier, head coach Craig Berube had addressed the issue directly. He pointed to leadership. He said the team's leaders needed to take more control.
I thought we just made it really easy for them. The neutral zone was, a highway for them to get through, and I don't know, we just made it so easy for them, and they're obviously a skilled team, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, and I don't think we put enough stress on them on both sides of the puck.
That context mattered when Matthews spoke. Matthews did not raise his voice. He did not criticize teammates. He did not challenge the coaching staff. His words were measured. "We can all be better," Matthews said. He pointed to the last 2 games and called them frustrating. He added that responsibility would fall on the leaders and said he was fine with that. He stressed grinding, consistency, and sticking to what worked earlier in game. They came hours after Berube's blunt assessment following a loss, when the coach said the leaders had to take control more than they were. Berube's style has been direct since arriving in Toronto. He speaks plainly after losses. He places accountability where he believes it belongs. After recent results, that spotlight turned toward the leadership group. At the same time, Berube had been openly praising Matthews' on-ice play. Before a recent game, Berube said Matthews was driving play, creating chances, and playing with pace and determination. That praise was public. It was specific. It focused on effort and approach, not just scoring. This exchange happened during a stretch filled with major moments for Matthews. He had just returned from injury. Soon after, he broke the Maple Leafs' all-time goal-scoring record, passing Matt Sundin. He scored his 421st goal in fewer games than any player in franchise history. That achievement came during a loss, which kept the focus on team results rather than celebration. Inside that environment, Matthews' words took on extra meaning. The captain was not speaking as a player chasing milestones. He was speaking as the face of the team during a moment of scrutiny. His message echoed the coach's demand for urgency and detail. It reinforced accountability without pointing fingers. Fans noticed the timing. Analysts noted the alignment. The conversation shifted from systems and tactics to leadership and response. The reaction to Matthews' comments spread quickly because of what followed on the ice. In the games surrounding those statements, Matthews' role was clear. His minutes stayed heavy. His matchups stayed difficult. He took key defensive zone faceoffs. He remained on the ice late in close games. Those deployment choices reflected trust from the coaching staff. Craig Berube continued to speak about structure and pace in the days that followed. He did not walk back his earlier comments about leadership. He also did not single out any player. Instead, he repeated that the team needed consistent effort across all 3 periods. His public message remained steady. Matthews' leadership role extended beyond scoring. After returning from injury, he resumed his position on the top line and first power play unit. His ice time remained among the highest on the team. According to NHL game logs, Matthews averaged over 20 minutes per game during that stretch. stretch. Those minutes included penalty kill shifts and defensive zone start, areas that often reflect coaching trust. In the days following those remarks, media coverage centered on the connection between the captain and the coach. Analysts replayed both Berub's earlier comments and Matthews' response. The sequence became the story. First, the coach challenged the leaders. Then, the captain answered publicly. Berube continued to praise Matthews' pace and effort in later interviews. Matthews continued to emphasize team play when asked about individual achievements. After breaking the franchise goal record, he redirected attention back to results and consistency. The exchange between coach and captain did not resolve the Maple Leafs' challenges overnight. Wins and losses continued, but the messaging inside the organization became clearer. Accountability was shared, responsibility was acknowledged, expectations were stated publicly, and as the season moved forward, that short statement after practice remained one of the clearest signals yet of how leadership inside the Maple Leafs room was responding to pressure.
With Marty Biron. Marty, here's an observation I've made. Nothing seems to come easy for this Maple Leafs team.
The Toronto Maple Leafs were not dealing with one bad night or one missing player. The problems were deeper. Defensive numbers told the story. Injuries added weight. Then the general manager broke his silence. He did not shift blame. He did not promise quick fixes. What he admitted placed the entire season under a harsher light.
We're not where we want to be or where we envision to be. Obviously, we've underperformed to this point, and I take full responsibility. I'm in charge of the hockey department. I've put the people in place on the ice, off the ice, so the responsibility lies with myself, and we start today and every day trying to get ourselves back up and going and improve where we are.
The focus moved sharply to Brad Treliving after the Toronto Maple Leafs continued to struggle through the early portion of the season. During a media availability, the general manager addressed the team's performance directly. He stated, "We've underperformed to this point." That statement placed responsibility at the top of the organization, not on individual players or coaching staff, and it marked one of the clearest acknowledgments from the front office this season. Treliving expanded on that position by stating, "I'm in charge of the hockey department. I've put the people in place on the ice, off the ice, so the responsibility lies with myself." The comment removed ambiguity about where accountability rests. At the time of those remarks, the Maple Leafs held an 8-9-2 record. They ranked second last in the Eastern Conference. The team had also allowed the second most goals per game in the league.
Brett Treliving, the general manager, had his media availability at about the quarter mark of the season, and things are not going well in Toronto right now when you look at the hockey club. And Noodles, one of the quotes that really stood out, there was a lot of great quotes that I want to talk about with you about Brad Treliving. One of them was, "There's too much vanilla with our hockey team right now." And when I think of Brad Treliving talking about we need a new DNA, and right now he's saying there's too much vanilla, I mean, this is a pretty significant message to the players.
Attention then shifted to the team's identity. Treliving described the Maple Leafs on-ice product as too much vanilla. The description pointed to inconsistency and a lack of complete performances rather than isolated mistakes. He also stated that the issues were not limited to specific players. Put anybody in the uniform and playing the way we're playing, we're probably going to have the same result. The general manager also addressed speculation around immediate roster changes. Treliving stated, "You're not trading your way out of problems." That remark signaled resistance to quick external fixes. Instead, he emphasized that improvement must come from within the existing group. At the same time, he publicly reaffirmed his support for head coach Craig Berube, stating, "Craig didn't become a bad coach overnight," and adding that he had all the faith in the world in him. These statements surfaced as injuries continued to impact the roster. Veteran defenseman Chris Tanev suffered a groin injury described in reports as potentially long-term. Other players dealt with lower body issues, further limiting lineup stability. With performance concerns already present, the injury situation increased attention on roster depth and long-term planning, and that pressure remained fixed on the general manager as the situation continued to develop. The situation intensified as external pressure met internal limitations. Reports published in early January indicated that roster planning had become more complicated due to injuries, particularly on defense. According to coverage summarized by Hockey Patrol, The Maple Leafs were forced to reassess trade deadline planning because of player availability and health concerns. Chris Tanev's groin injury was identified as a key factor, with the absence expected to last a significant period, further reducing defensive depth. At the same time, the general manager maintained his stance against reactive decision-making. His statement, "You're not trading your way out of problems," continued to shape public interpretation of the organization's direction. The message was clear: immediate transactions would not replace internal correction. This position stood even as external observers linked injuries and defensive struggles back to roster construction choices made before the season began. The pressure surrounding these comments increased because of timing. The Maple Leafs were not dealing with isolated losses. They were managing sustained inconsistency. According